10, 5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for November 4th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Mario and Luigi Brothership reviews have dropped and a secret PS5 Pro feature has leaked. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Emma Fyffe, everybody. Emma, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right, Grubb. It was, a rough week last week, but I'm here and happy to be talking about video games.
Yep, same. Absolutely. We had a very successful Extra Life stream over the weekend. That went very well. All hung out at Dan's, raised a bunch of money, twice the amount of money we raised the year before. So we got to $45,000, $45,250 when it was all said and done.
Amazing.
Yeah, we were punished in a variety of ways by everyone donating, and we really appreciate it. It was an awesome time. Don't regret a second of it. It was very memorable, although there are many things that happened that I don't remember because so much stuff happened in, I don't know, the 18, 19 hours we were streaming or something like that. But yeah, it was an incredible time. So
yeah I hear you have a new hairstyle.
Got a little bit of a mullet going now. Yep, absolutely. Well, we'll see how long that lasts.
I think that like you're kind of rocking it though. To be honest, like.
It's working.
It looks nice.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing to have. I'll have to go get it cleaned up a little bit. Let's just say the gingerbread man that gave me the mullet was not a professional hairstylist.
Got it. Yeah. Just get it cleaned up, and I actually think it's working.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, got sent to the noobs hole many times. It was not a pleasant experience. I was the only one sitting there to watch the entire thing, which was a $3,000 donation from Joe Beezer, and I got that I think because I won Mario Party, so my reward was.
So, I'm sorry, Dan Reichert's never lost Mario Party on the internet, not even in my presence.
Yeah. Well, he lost this time, and I won, and he was actually in the last two turns got sent for 15 minutes into the noobs hole, so he didn't even see the ending of Mario Party. Even though Joe Beezer was working against us and was trying to help Dan. Joe Beezer sent many of us into the noobs hole and let Dan play against bots for several minutes, but even that didn't matter. Maybe the dumbest thing we did do was when the clocks fell back for the end of daylight savings time, we created a save at, what was it, 1 a.m.? And so at 2 a.m. when the clocks fell back to 1 a.m. again, we reverted Mario Party back 1 hour and undid all of the play we did in that time. And really, it helped because I was doing terribly, and then we reverted the clocks, and I started to win. So
that's kind of amazing that you were, because like just based on the time, you were able to revert back to what it had been at that time.
Yep, we just did a save state on Nintendo Switch Online, and
that's really cool.
It was a lot of fun. Yes, I was in last place at the time of the reset. So and I won. It didn't make it that much better. Still played way too much Mario Party. That was the worst thing that could have happened to me. But yeah, it was an excellent time. Thank you everybody who donated. Thank you everybody who gave. $1 to $3,000. Everyone in between. It all helped. It all go help KU Med. So thank you everybody who came out for that. And if you just watched as well, that was great too. Just thanks for hanging out with us. It was a very good time. All right, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Mario and Luigi Brothership reviews are in. I believe it's like hovering around a 79 or an 80 on OpenCritic right now. Over at Shack News, Ozzy Meha gave it a 9 out of 10 and says, Mario has ventured into into massive worlds before. He's even surfed the cosmos across different galaxies. Rarely has a world in any of his games felt this connected. Mario and Luigi Brothership is a game about building bonds, the kind that Mario shares with his cherished brother. Luke Kemp at Games Radar Plus gave it 4 stars, says despite a few lurches here and there and some so-so exploration, Mario and Luigi Brothership offers an enjoyable voyage with smooth sailing and a wonderful script that brings the laughs. It has a new developer and an extra dimension, but the same dedication to humor and brotherly love. Logan Plant at IGN, meanwhile, gave it a 5 out of 10 and said, apart from its great battle system, Mario and Luigi Brothership is an incredibly disappointing revival that suffers from boring gameplay and dialogue, a bloated runtime, shockingly bad performance, and a fundamental misunderstanding of what made the series great.
Wow, it feels like the last reviewer played a different game. You know what it's like?
Yeah.
It's wild to me. I don't know if you ever have the experience of you're like at a movie theater and you leave and you hate the movie, and every single person you interact with as you're leaving the screening of Star Wars Rise of Skywalker is like, I loved it. And I'm like, did I see a different movie?
I almost left that movie. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, but please continue.
Well, yeah. So that's it for the reviews I wrote down here. I did get a chance. I was able to get a copy early, and I played a little bit of it, and I see where Logan's coming from. I think that the game itself, listen, the combat is good. That's what Logan points out is like, that's fun. Boy, it's like, I wish that combat could just be what it's like in the Paper Mario games. That would kind of fix a lot with Paper Mario. The combat's very good. I feel actively engaged. All the brother moves are very cool. You get upgrades and you get the gear that makes you feel like more survivable. And then, you get a hammer and now you got hammer moves in combat, and that's great. I'm kind of, I think I'm like 3 hours in or something like that, 3.5 hours in. And I feel like I'm waiting for it to get started. I'm waiting for, like, it just doesn't have the juice. It's the writing is boring. It's bland. I'm waiting, like, yeah, there's some puns here or there, but it doesn't have the sort of liveliness that you got from Superstar Saga or many of its sequels.
Sure.
The exploration does feel very basic. You're going around these small islands. The way the game works is there was a connected sort of like continent that had all these countries connected together. There's a big tree. The tree died. Someone did something to it. We don't know who. And so all these lands got disconnected, and now they're islands floating in the sea. You're on a ship-shaped island called Shipshape, literally called Shipshape.
Classic.
And it goes through the sea on the currents, and you can choose different currents, similar to Spirit Tracks, actually. Not that that's a problem. It works fine here. But you'll find these different islands, and as you find these different islands and complete what you do on these islands, you connect them back to Shipshape, and so you're bonding them together. And I think one of the cool things is, as you're waiting for Shipshape to travel on the currents to other new islands that you haven't explored before, you can spend some time going back to these previous islands that frequently have opened up new avenues of exploration after you've done like the main quest there. So like there's reasons to go back. But the main quests themselves in each of these areas is there's just not much to it. You're just kind of going through like very basic things. It feels very kind of like beyond baby's first RPG in a lot of ways, and just like they didn't want any friction here at all. I think in earlier Mario and Luigi games, you would get these brother moves that you have the hammer, so we're gonna hit Mario with Luigi's hammer, turn him into a ball, send him through this thing. I think that stuff will be in this game later on. But, but as it stands early on, none of that stuff is really factoring into solving puzzles, and a lot of it comes down to these you're controlling Mario and Luigi's behind you, and then Luigi and you can hold down the L button on the controller, and Luigi would just go do his own thing, and he'll like solve something for you, and then you're still controlling Mario. And in the previous games, it was like I felt like I had full control over both the entire time, and I was there's a small thing, but I find it very frustrating. In the earlier games, you could roll your thumb over A and B, because A is always controlling Mario, B is always controlling Luigi. That still happens here. But as you like roll your thumb over it, like that would do like an offset jump, so you could go up platforms really smoothly, and it felt like, oh, cool, I'm getting both these brothers up these few steps. And here, every time I do that, Luigi will jump straight up and stay still, and so Mario's getting ahead of him, and Mario's doing the jumps just fine, but Luigi's staying back there, and so they get like disconnected, and I just don't feel like I'm in control of both of them. So
yeah,
it's been fine. Like I think it's a fine game, but it does not live up to my expectations so far.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I mean, just because like one of the things that, I've been thinking about recently and, talking about with my husband is that like I've been enjoying these kind of littler surprise games that Nintendo's been dropping, like Super Mario Brothers Wonder, for example, last year. I absolutely loved. It was so fun to play 2-player. And then this year you had Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which again, it was like announced earlier this year, came out this year, and, isn't giant full scale like a Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom, but is a very fun and satisfying game with interesting mechanics. In some ways, I actually can draw some similarities between something like an Echoes of Wisdom and a Super Mario Brothers Wonder in like the changing of perspectives. Because, you've played Echoes of Wisdom. It's like sometimes it's like a top down sort of isometric, you're running around, and then other times it switches to the side scrolling platformer. And that's all really fun, and it's playing with those mechanics, and it does so fairly seamlessly. So it's disappointing to hear that like Mario and Luigi Brothership is not like keeping up that tradition of being like a not mainline title exactly, but still being a fun kind of smaller experience.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Mario and Luigi was always the Mario RPG franchise that really hit best with me. And the Super Mario RPG was very special, but
right,
we've had Paper Mario, we've had Mario and Luigi, and I thought Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is a great, like one of my favorite games of all time. Bowser's Inside Story is also really good. And there's been like various levels of quality from the rest of the games in the series. I even like the Dream one, even though that one is definitely guilty of over explaining everything and really holding your hand on everything. And here it's like maybe it's doing that, maybe it's holding your hand, but there's just not much to hold your hand through. It's all so basic, at least early on. And if it does get more like in depth later on, if it does require more of you, I'm not expecting that, but if it does, it's like, okay, it might be a little too late.
Do you think that this is, because I mean, I didn't play the full game. I played the demo because there was a free demo of the Princess Peach game earlier this year. And I remember playing it and I went, you know what? This is not for me. This is for children. I would have gobbled this up as a child. And I think that, there is a place for those games that are for kids. But then I think also that, you take something like, again, I just rolled credits on Echoes of Wisdom, so it's like very fresh in my mind, that I wouldn't say Echoes of Wisdom is a difficult game per se. You can, but they have the option to turn the difficulty up, which is great. And it is totally playable by children, but still absolutely enjoyable for adults.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's missing here is that I always thought the Mario and Luigi games would have been fine for any kid.
Sure, And
then they're also just quality games, and this is I think this is a game that kids will enjoy actually.
Sure, yeah.
And that's okay. That's fine. I'm not going to take that away from it. I wouldn't. But it's not then also just a great game on its own merits. It's okay. I think it's very fun. It's a good foundation. I hope it does well. I hope that the the team that worked on this succeeds here enough that Nintendo would be like, okay, let's do it again, but let's like really
give them another
there.
chance.
Let's get the juice this time. And but as it stands right now, it's just not there. All right, got another set of reviews for you. Slitterhead is out. Let me actually double check on this. On OpenCritic, I'm going to refresh, see where it's at. Yeah, it's still at 66 on OpenCritic. 29% of critics would recommend the game, according to OpenCritic. Not a great result there. Let's see here. Tristan Ogilvy from IGN gave it a 5 out of 10. Says, like a bloody blade worn down by a few too many battles, Slitterhead grows increasingly dull over time and ultimately just doesn't cut it. So it's a pretty good turn of phrase there. James Troughton at The Gamer gave it 4 stars. Says, Slitterhead is an incredibly inventive game with a brilliant and novel idea at its core. It's the exact kind of release we should be uplifting, a new IP that pushes graphics and trends aside to try something fresh. Abby Stone at PC Gamer gave it a 70 out of 100, said, a flawed but fun action slaughterfest with a great NPC possession hook. This is the new one from at least one of the people involved in early Silent Hill games.
Yes.
That's why it got some attention. Sounds like rough around the edges, and I believe even the creators of the game were saying like, yeah, it's going to be like early Silent Hill games where it's kind of rough. But I don't know. Any interest in still checking this out?
From an aesthetic point of view, absolutely. Like this is completely my jam. It looks like weird body horror, and I like horror games. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to try it because again, it's like I do appreciate, as you quoted in the one review, that it's an original IP. I do think that in gaming we are getting stronger representation of original IP than we necessarily are in like movies and TV, though even that is shifting a little bit. So again, I want to support people who are doing something new.
Definitely. Yes. Same. Or like even like something new while trying to bring back something that is established or lost. And they're definitely going for it here. And I think it might be worth like trying out and still and maybe this is like the genre. Maybe this is my perception of the genre. A subpar horror game doesn't feel like the worst thing to spend your time 100%. On, right? It's like a subpar action adventure game, a subpar platformer. Those, it's like, why would I waste my time?
Yeah.
Here it's like, well, I bet this could still be very interesting.
Totally. Yeah.
But we'll see how it does. I mean, maybe it's also one of those things like, hey, a Slitterhead 2 really brings these things together.
Sure.
But I don't know. I wonder if with Silent Hill 2, the remake coming out, doing very well, being really well received, if that doesn't create much of a chance, there's not a lot of oxygen left in the room for the fandom to go pay attention to this instead. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's like, it's interesting timing with the release of the Silent Hill 2 remake. Because as you say, that has done very well. That has largely positive reviews. So I'm more interested in playing that than checking this out. But I'm not uninterested in this.
Yeah, and it does. I mean, maybe it's like less of a horror game than even maybe we're giving it credit for. It looks like there's a ton of action in this trailer.
It does look like there's just a lot of action. Yeah.
I don't know. Your arm flings off and you can use it as a weapon. That's pretty cool.
That's rad. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Slitterhead. I think this is coming out this week as well. 66 on OpenCritic. I'm sure more reviews will come in soon. Right, let's see here. I'm going to turn off these headlines because that's broken today. Everything's broken today. There we go. Okay, let's get to the next story. A PS5 Pro feature will make some PS4 games look even better. This is a secret feature that people are discovering as more and more information gets out about the system, which launches later this week, November 7th. It's November 4th right now. This is from Armageddon at Game Rant. A new report suggests that the PlayStation 5 Pro will have an option that will allow or enable players to enhance the image quality of some PlayStation 4 games. While the PlayStation 5 Pro's primary focus has been the PS5 enhanced titles, it seems like its capabilities extend to the previous console generation as well. Sony announced the PlayStation 5 Pro earlier this year, and it got a mixed reception from the community. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, there's a feature called something along the lines of enhance PS5 or PS4 games, and it's like, and then it says like a little subtext below that. It's like one toggle, and it says, "Hey, some PS4 games will get improved, and if this doesn't work, it might cause some glitches. So just turn it off if that starts happening." I think that this is probably going to be some sort of AI upscaling, some sort of machine learned.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It sounds like an AI kind of thing.
Yeah, and machine learning could definitely do something like this. I think some people have begun looking at it a little bit more closely here or there. We haven't seen a ton of stuff on this, but of course, the first game most people went to was Bloodborne. I saw one comparison shot where it was difficult to notice any difference at all. Maybe if you zoomed in on some stuff, it's like maybe this thing looks a little sharper than this image over here. But I don't know. Maybe it looks better in motion. Maybe that's where like it really benefits. But do you think there's a reason that it's like they haven't talked about this feature? It's like they don't want to like promise too much, but maybe it'll be a little bit better here and there.
I definitely think it's they don't want to promise too much. To me, this feels like, hey, we're experimenting with this. So the feature exists, but we're not going to advertise it as being a feature because we're not super confident in how much of a difference it's really going to make.
Yeah, I'm like hopeful that like, hey, every little thing that makes me feel better about a PS5 Pro might be like, well, when I do go to get one of those things, that every little feature will benefit it and make me feel better. But it's like, I don't know, looking at those early comparison shots, not seeing much there. It's like, okay, is this sort of a placebo effect that they're putting in there? And that's why they're not really talking about it. PS5 already enhances a lot of PS4 games because they built that sort of capability in when they did PS4 Pro. Like there will just be some games that just get enhanced in the background, and PS5 will do even more of that. And at a certain point, when you're running those games that are that don't need a lot of horsepower on something that does have a lot of extra horsepower and is already upscaling things to look really good on 4K TVs, it is going to be hard to notice the smallest differences. So we'll see. But hey, PS5 Pro out this week. We'll get a lot more information on this once it's out in the wild. And I think we'll probably have some more coverage of it here on Giant Bomb, and I know they'll have more over at GameSpot as well. Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Final Fantasy producers talking about Xbox and their plans for releasing games on that system going forward, and a lot more right after this. All right, right back into it. As promised, Final Fantasy producer claims Square plans to release games simultaneously on Xbox going forward. This is from Jordan Midler at VGC. Final Fantasy producer Naoki Yoshida has said that Square Enix plans to release games simultaneously on Xbox going forward. In an interview with 4Gamer for Fantasian Neo Dimension, Yoshida, known by fans as Yoshi P, said that Square plans to launch games on all platforms simultaneously more and more. Of course, we want you to play it a lot on other platforms as well, he said. This time, we will also release the Xbox Series X and S versions at the same time. In the future, Square Enix titles will be released simultaneously on each platform more and more, but since this is close to the first release, we would like Xbox users to play it as well. Earlier this year, Yoshida said that he'd like to release Final Fantasy XVI on Xbox platforms. During an interview with Video Games, Yoshida was asked if he could offer any news on a potential release for the game on Microsoft consoles. Of course, we did announce the PC version of the game, so looking towards the Xbox version, we do want it to release on Xbox, he said. But when it comes to the specifics, such as when the game would be available and such, we are not in a position to be able to share anything. But of course, I want to say that it's not as if there's zero hope, and we very much do want to achieve that. So players should not give up in terms of their hopes. We've known that this has been like the way the wind is blowing. They've explicitly said this before, but they keep coming back to this as like a reminder of like, hey, Xbox fans, we're not just not forgetting about you. We plan to fully incorporate you into our launch plans going forward, and in between like the next big game launching and now, we are also very much concerned with getting games that are exclusive to other platforms or not on Xbox over to Xbox. I think this is like a good start for Square Enix. We've talked about this before, Emma, and I think we've both agreed that this is not necessarily the solution to everything that ails Square Enix, but it's a start, right?
It's definitely a start. And I think, the only thing probably at this point that's holding them back from knowing exactly when these things are going to get releases on Xbox is their contracts with Sony. There's timed exclusivity. There has been for a long time, and then they've always been able to do the PC ports. But again, it's really interesting that because we lived through the great console wars of yore, where games really were not on multiple platforms. And now it's really standard for games to be released on multiple platforms simultaneously, unless they are developed specifically by Microsoft Xbox, like for them, or like Sony Santa Monica. So look, you want to reach as many people as you possibly can. I think, again, that the Xbox has never been the go-to for sort of your massive scale JRPGs, but then they have their contract with Sega Atlas for the Persona games to go on to Game Pass. So I think that you're capturing more of that audience. And again, those things are on Game Pass, so those people are kind of getting a taste for those things, and they think, maybe I want to play this Final Fantasy game, and then you make it available for sale on Xbox. That makes perfect sense.
Yes, it's the Xbox audience at this point is like, they're looking for games to play. Sure, a lot of people are just like, oh, let's get stuff on PC now, but there is still a dedicated Xbox console audience for sure.
Absolutely.
And it's the kind that can, I think they have at the very least been somewhat trained to pay attention to Square Enix games because, or the kinds of games that Square Enix makes anyhow, because there've been several successful JRPGs on Game Pass now. I think there was a Dragon Quest 11. Dragon Quest 11 was one that went on there. I think reports were it did very well on Game Pass. And I think that audience is like, well, hey, give me a big game on here. I'll pay attention at that point.
And also, if Square could get a contract going with Game Pass, there are so many other RPGs that they make that are not Final Fantasy, that are even not Dragon Quest, which I would say is, in terms of their, big RPG franchises, that is their second most popular one. It's certainly extremely popular in Japan. It does not have the same kind of popularity in the US, but there's all the Octopath Traveler games. Yeah. I mean, all two of them. But those games are fun. There's, I had another example and it has gone out of my brain because my body does not know what time it is. Yeah, the Saga titles. The Mana titles, the Secret Legend, etc. of Mana. And I think that those would all do very well on a Game Pass kind of situation. Any sort of subscription service, you just get this game, those games would get more attention because people would be like, oh, cool, I like JRPGs. I'm going to try this. Yep.
And, Jamie H. in the chat mentions, you could put Final Fantasy VII Part 1 on Game Pass.
Oh, yeah.
And that would offer up a real easy pathway for people to be like, okay, I'll play that. And then
I'll buy the second one.
Now here's 2. And as you're finishing up 2, 3 will be out within a year and a half of that, 2 years of that at the most. That feels like, maybe not the most, but possibly within 2 years. It's okay, now you've created this really great runway to get fans on board in a way that even a PlayStation 5 didn't have, because if you didn't play a Final Fantasy VII Part 1, it's like, well, I got to go get that first. And I guess so. Now I'm going to just go buy that cheap. And then now at this point, I'll just wait for Final Fantasy VII Part 2 to be cheap. I think that there is some benefits that the Xbox can present to a company like Square Enix that is different and unique. And yet at the same time, they got to just figure out their games. They got to figure out what the future of Final Fantasy looks like. They have to figure out why they've been so afraid of embracing what makes those games special in terms of turn-based combat, and why that's worked out so well for everyone else that's stuck with that and not Square Enix being like, we're gonna have this super broad audience.
Really fascinating to think about, because as you say, you look at Sega Atlas very specifically. Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal, and now
Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yeah, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Metaphor Refantazio. There's so much turn-based combat that is working super well. And the thing about the Yakuza games very specifically is that you have your two flavors of Yakuza. Yeah. You have your beat 'em up games. The new Pirates game is a return to form with the classic, brawler type. So fun. But people like turn-based RPGs. They do.
Yes, I mean, and
I
the Yakuza games have never been as popular as they are now as they become more turn-based. So,
yeah, totally. And it's like, look, I happen to love the combat system in the Final Fantasy VII re-games. I think it's one of the best things about it.
Great. They are great. Absolutely. Yes.
But I also respect the people that are like, I love this game, but I am a turn-based RPG type of person. So,
yep.
You know?
Yeah, and Sega Atlas, Jamie Chaucer points out here that they credit going multi-platform to the increased sales of Persona and Yakuza, and it's like,
oh yeah.
I mean, Sega Atlas, they this is a company that has seemed to really figure things out in this last year or so. It's really come together for them. This is following in the footsteps of Capcom. That is like the biggest multi-platform publisher in Japan, and that has really paid off. And now it's Square Enix and Konami sort of like being like, can we replicate that?
Yeah.
Konami seems to be doing that slowly.
Yeah.
They're making a lot of money, but that's like they're making even more now that they've done this. And Square Enix, meanwhile, has been the one that's been holding out the longest to being like, hey, let's get our money just from Sony. And they seem to have been paying the biggest price for that. And then
Absolutely.
I think, going multi-platform, having more people to sell your game to, that is clearly the number one issue. They're solving that. After that, figuring out the identity of your biggest franchises is going to be the more challenging problem. But if you have a little bit more leeway in terms of who you're selling to, maybe that gives you a little bit more slack to work with in terms of solving those problems.
Yeah.
All right. Pokemon, the trading card game Pocket, is reportedly already bringing in the big bucks. This is from Jim Norman at Nintendo Life.
Yep.
Have you been playing
cannot
this?
believe. I just need to interject that I cannot believe that it took this long to get this.
Yep. So I mean, they've had TCG Live, which is like been this really antiquated PC game app that they put on. I think they put it on mobile quite some time ago. It's been available everywhere, but it is for the biggest fans of the trading card game, so they could play competitively. It's not been like super accessible to like new audiences. That is the exact opposite case with Pocket, which makes it very simple. It simplifies the game itself, like the playing of the game, but then it shifts it shifts the emphasis from playing competitively with other people, which you could still do in the game, to collecting the cards, which is the thing that really makes them the money. So now it's making them a lot of money here. Jim Norman at Nintendo Life writes, Pokemon trading card game Pocket arrived on mobile last week, and after racking up an impressive 10 million downloads in the first 48 hours, it has reportedly been pulling in some beefy revenue numbers over the weekend. As reported by MobileGamer.biz, the mobile market research firm AppMagic estimates that TCG Pocket has been bringing in a sweet $3 million per day since launching, racking up $12 million in its first 4 days on the market. To make things sound even more impressive, the firm suggests puts the trading card app's revenue more than 3 times higher than Pokemon Go for the same period, which still brings in an estimated $1 million per day. That puts it like well on the pathway of being one of these games that makes $1 billion in a year, right? So, it's a huge launch. I think it's in terms of having the 10 million downloads. 10 million downloads. That makes it one of the highest installed apps of all time in terms of a 1 week period. It's definitely in like the top 5. I think it might be in the top 3. And yeah, Pokemon still has the juice when it comes to attracting players, getting people to spend money. And this game, we were hanging out over the weekend. Mike was just on there all the time, waiting for new packs to unlock. He hasn't monetized yet, but you could just see like him sitting there waiting for that. Some people are not going to be able to resist that urge. And the whole way it works is you get 2 free packs a day, 1 every 12 hours. So if you want more packs, you don't just go buy more packs. You basically just buy some energy to unlock packs early. And people are rushing to do that because they just want to have a chance to get new cards. The collection mechanics of seeing what cards you have, knowing that these 3 card expansion packs that you can select from, they have 5 cards in them each, have different sets of cards in them, kind of encourage people like, okay, I'm going to focus on this one so I know I have a better chance of getting what I want. And then I could see it completed in my collection. It's well engineered to make a lot of money. It sounds like it's doing exactly that.
It does not surprise me at all that Minotti is into this game.
Yeah, he's not the only one. Sean was definitely playing. I think Kayla was playing.
Yeah.
I've like started, but my kids are just kind of getting into Pokemon in general. So it's like, we'll kind of do this together. I've been opening packs with them. So I can like, when I found out if you don't open the packs right away, they just sit there and you don't recharge new packs. I'm like, okay, I should open these. So at least we're getting new cards. And, it looks great. It plays great. It's snappy, and clearly people just humans like collecting things, and this is really playing on that. So it's working very well.
I have an idea for the Pokemon Company because there was the slogan of Pokemon Go to the polls. Wouldn't it be great if you could go and vote? And then as a reward for voting, you get energy to unlock new packs in Pokemon Trading Card Fighter.
Yep, it's
Z. I don't know.
And I think that's what it's called. Yeah,
yeah, that's the title, right?
Yeah, I'll admit when I see like friends on social media sharing images of like their very rare Charizard shiny foil card. And it's digital. It doesn't matter in my brain. I'm just like, ooh, that looks fun. That looks neat. I wish I had one of those too. I don't know why. I've never really played the card game, the Pokemon card game. But I'm going to spend some more time with this app myself. I'm going to try to like get a deck going, play some games against the computer, see if I enjoy it. Because I've liked a card game in the past. Maybe this one will be good. If it's if I feel like, I could see myself going on the path of spending a lot of money on this, and really I'm just having fun playing this game, maybe I'll just go back and play the Game Boy Color TCG game that they released on Nintendo Switch Online that I've always meant to play. And I'm like, I'll just go play that instead. I like the idea of a card game RPG. That's always been neat.
Yeah. It's just there for you to play.
Yes, exactly.
Don't have to spend any more money.
I can just get the same experience, but in an RPG setting. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. That's what I've done with golf. I'll just go play Mario Golf instead. Play that RPG.
That's better than real golf anyway.
Exactly. All right, moving along here. Nintendo shares why it created the Nintendo Music app. This is from My Nintendo News. In an interview with Nippon Television News, a spokesperson for Nintendo explained why the company made the Nintendo Music app, which lets Nintendo Switch Online members listen to music from Nintendo classics, both old and new, in the palm of their hands. Roughly translated, here's what Nintendo shared with the news outlet. We believe that game music is an important and valuable piece of content in order to expand the number of people who have access to Nintendo IPs, and Nintendo Music is a service that allows us to deliver this game music in a way that is unique to Nintendo. You can enjoy the unique features of Nintendo Music, such as being able to enjoy music along with screenshots and being provided with playlists based not only on game titles, but also on various game-related themes and perspectives such as characters and music during battles. We believe that if Nintendo Music reminds you of your favorite gaming experience, it will also inspire you to want to play the games again. I have a kind of, from the outside when this was announced, this seemed to me like, this is like a easy value add to Nintendo Switch Online to kind of make people feel a little bit better about continuing that subscription every year.
Yep.
And then, and they did do it in a Nintendo way. The app does feel a little bit different than just any other music app. It doesn't feel that special, but like, oh yeah, some of the stuff does feel like I am going into a Nintendo curated experience. Fair enough.
Sure.
But I don't think this is a thing that like a year from now, people are not going to be talking about the Nintendo Music app all that much, right?
I don't think anybody is signing up for Nintendo Switch Online for Nintendo Music. Let's put it that way.
I agree.
I think everybody's reaction is, okay, cool. I love video game music. I listen to video game music all the time. But yeah, it's like, all right.
Yep. I think a lot of people listen to video game music, so it's like I get like Nintendo being like, we should be taking more advantage of that.
Sure.
And yeah, again, you're doing it in a very Nintendo way. But I don't think that this really changes much for most people. And while, maybe not everyone has YouTube Premium, so the ad-free feature of Nintendo Music for people that are already subscribed, maybe that's a little bit of a benefit for a certain audience, probably a large people who don't have YouTube Premium. For me, it's like it's so much easier to go find this stuff on YouTube, so I'll just keep doing that.
There's also just like really good reinterpretations of video game music all over Spotify, so
Yep, it's hard to sort of just justify it on its own. But I did install the app. I have access to it. I will maybe occasionally take advantage of it. But I like I said, I bet within the next, it probably won't even be a year. It'll be a couple months. I will forget about it, and then I'll either get a new phone or something, and I won't remember to reinstall it, and I'll never use it again. And then maybe like a year from now, they announce some new feature or new big drop of music. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll install it again, use it for a couple of days, and then the same process will begin anew. But yeah, I still hope this doesn't discourage them from just like putting music out on other services, but they really have never really done that much. I know we always talk about the mechanical license thing of them not wanting to.
Nintendo doesn't like to share.
Yes, and they don't like being compelled to enable people to be able to cover their music. Like I looked into this a little bit more. Someone mentioned like I have been able to cover Nintendo songs before. Yeah. That works. I think that Nintendo does still do that, but I think if you release certain songs in the United States, mechanical licenses become compulsory. You cannot. I see. They cannot say no to if you decide to cover their song. Now you still have to pay them. You still have to pay them to go through and
but they can't tell you no.
They can't tell you no.
Do it.
And I think what they're like, we usually will say yes, but we want to control that. We want to have control over that, and we'll give you the mechanical license. And you still got to pay us, of course. Yeah. But we want to be able to say no if we choose to do so. And so I think I still tend to believe that that's why Nintendo doesn't usually go down the pathway of releasing certain things in the United States that would make that mechanical license compulsory. But again, who knows? Nintendo's a weird company, and I think this is the latest example of that.
Absolutely.
All right, a few more stories here. Reminder: Nintendo will report its earnings overnight tonight. So on Giant Bombcast tomorrow, we probably should have some news from that. You know, it's going to be like how the Switch is doing. Have they been able to keep up with the pace they expected to in terms of hardware sales? Probably not. But how certain games that have released have been doing. You know, Super Mario Party Jamboree released, I don't think inside the reporting period, but maybe they have some updates on that as well. They do that sometimes. But then, you know, they're going to be talking to investors who are going to say, why am I still invested in your company? And Nintendo might feel compelled to say, here's a little bit more information on Switch 2. That could happen. In fact, I think it would be pretty hard for them to go through this, the Q&A session with investors and not have to answer something about Switch 2, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing I'm most curious about is theme park earnings.
Yeah, they'll definitely talk about theme park because I mean, and they have the new theme park opening up soon, so that'll be part of the revenue outlook as well. Yeah, I mean, I bet that's doing very well for them.
Oh yes, as somebody who spent many years in theme park world, I will tell you that is more lucrative than basically any other venture.
Yep. And it seems like the kind of thing Universal seems very happy with, and they're both going to keep expanding all that. I wonder if we even get talk of, hey, Mario, the movie was a little bit ago. We're following that up soon. Maybe here's a little more info about how we're expanding our efforts working with these various movie production companies. Here's an update on Zelda that we're doing with Sony Pictures. All that stuff is on the table for sure, but the biggest sort of lighthouse to keep an eye open for is going to be what is Nintendo going to tell investors about its plans for the rollout of Switch 2, because this will be the last investor Q&A, like for sure, before they reveal it publicly.
For sure.
The next one will be after March, right? Because we're in November now. And then the 3-month period will happen. Maybe there's one in early, but either way, like they're going to be in the thick of it because by March 31st, they will have to have talked about it because they said they've already told investors they're going to do that, you know, barring any sort of catastrophic thing. I think we'll probably get a little bit of tidbit here or there about Switch 2 that we can fill out some of this information about that system. Although don't expect a full reveal or anything like that. Finally, mentioned it earlier, PS5 Pro is out this week. They do have a list of the 50 enhanced games that will be available at launch. It's things like EA Sports College Football 25 and Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Lies of P and Pal World and No Man's Sky. So it's like it runs the gamut, right? It's all. I think 50 games that have like bespoke improvements for PlayStation 5 Pro is pretty respectable. That's like a good
Sure.
number. Like you're probably going to find several games that you already own that are going to look seriously better, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I am still not sure if I'm going to get one though.
I am very sure that I am not going to unless Sony wants to send me one for free 99.
Yeah, I mean, what? Yeah, for real. When I've seen it, it's like this is impressive. Some of these improvements do look really, really noticeable. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm just not playing my PS5 enough to justify. I'm not playing any console other than Switch enough to justify it. So that hasn't stopped me in the past. So we'll see. We'll see as we get closer. All right. I think that is going to do it for the headlines. Let's get to the poll question. Last week, I asked you about a dragon fight. Pick one, Dragon Age the Veilguard or Dragon Quest III HD 2D. 60% chose Dragon Quest III HD 2D. 40% went with Dragon Age the Veilguard. So pretty close fight, but
wow. I love seeing the love for Dragon Quest.
I think a lot of people are excited about that one. Also, it's the more mysterious one now. But when this was out, people were beginning to play Dragon Age the Veilguard, so maybe it's like, now I know a little bit more. Maybe I'll put my hopes and dreams into Dragon Quest instead. But that game also has come out before, so I don't really know what that means. I really want to play Dragon Quest III HD 2D. I think it looks really good, and I know that's one of the people's like favorite Dragon Quest games. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in on Dragon Quest.
Got a new poll question. We'll get to that here in a second. Before we do, though, Emma Fyffe, why don't you tell people what you have going on, where people can find you on the internet, all that good stuff.
Okay, well, you can find me voting, as is my right and civic duty here in the United States of America. If you are in the U.S., don't forget, tomorrow is the last day to vote. And then I'm at Emma Fyffe everywhere on the internet.
Yep. Yeah, I was trying to get out there for early voting, but it was they like moved my poll place further away from me for some reason, and it was all consolidated, so it was very, very busy. So I'm going to go to the local one that will finally be open tomorrow. Early voting did end yesterday, so there's this day in the middle where it's like you should still be able to early vote, but like, no, we're going to shut it down, and you got to wait for your poll place to open. Whatever. I'm going to go do it tomorrow as well. First thing, I'm going to drop off the kids, go right there, get in line and do it, get it done. Yeah. Everyone, go out and vote. If everyone votes, we'll get exactly what we deserve, right? I think so.
That's fair, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. New poll question. PS5 Pro is out this week. How do you feel about it now? Are you getting it, want it, but I'm waiting, or not getting it? Those are your three options. We'll try to get that up on youtube.com/@GiantBomb. Under the community tab there, you can vote for yourself. In the meantime, we'll get the results of that on Game S Mornings here on Giant Bomb on Wednesday. Speaking of Giant Bomb, on Tuesday, like we mentioned, Bombcast is back. Look out for that. It'll be a good time. We'll talk about more Mario and Luigi. We'll talk about a bunch of games. We've been playing Call of Duty. Maybe be able to talk. I think we might be able to talk about the PS5 Pro pretty soon. Not exactly sure when that's all going to break, but later this week, we'll definitely have some coverage of that, as well as expect Voicemail Dump Truck, expect probably the return of Blight Club. I know we missed last week. It was hectic. Again, layoffs happened. It was devastating, kind of really threw a wrench in the works, but we're still here. We're going to keep making stuff. So Blight Club will be back. And yeah, I kind of expect a lot of the other shows to return as well. All right, Emma, I think that's going to do it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games. I really appreciate it.
Of course, you got it.
Thank you all as well for listening and watching. Give your love to Jan. He's we'll see how he's doing. Guy can't catch a break, right? Just can't catch a break.
Oh, Jan.
So we're gonna let him take it easy. But yes, thank you everybody once again for watching. We'll catch you next time. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye. All right, off of YouTube.